Welcome to Smooth Criminal Airlines. Welcome aboard. Formerly known as Pissweek Airlines. Had a short but delightful, very scenic flight this morning to the city of Hobart, Tasmania. I'm aboard. We don't have seatbelts or snacks or beverages, so hopefully you brought your own because you won't be getting anything from us. We're as budget as they come. It's currently a delightful 13 degrees Celsius, flight 708. Because it's 7:08 a.m. Let's go. Monday morning in Australia. Curious to see if anyone joins me. Any smooth criminals? Oh, here they come. Oh, Blissful with Texas. Hello, you caught a live. You did. I tried an early live yesterday. I was one of the first channels to go live yesterday. It was weird. Like, I think everyone in America leaves, they do it at night time. But I'm experimenting because time zones are a nightmare. Gosh. Hello. Grumpy Sunny left at home. God, they get into routines, and normally she mixes her routine up after about 3 weeks. She's been in the same routine for about, probably not 2 months, but it feels like 2 months. I keep looking at her and I'm like, are you like one of those little elephants in the zoo that's getting bored and you're just going to start swaying backwards and forwards? Or is it just because she's, nearly 11? And that's what nearly 11-year-old cats do. I don't know. She's healthy. She's eating all the food. She's running around like a demon in the middle of the night. But she pretty much exists between her placemat in the kitchen where her food is and the green ottoman. Well, no, she does actually visit me in my room occasionally too. Emily Flotilla, hello, gorgeous. I saw your comment. Where did we find each other? Where did you spot me? I can't remember which channel it was. Oh, I love faces and like, hey, g'day. Just listening to Nancy Grace talking about the Idaho 4 murders. And once again, and I don't feel this is going to become a broken record because I keep trying to find a slightly different angle. Yeah, some new clip channel. I didn't get a chance to respond, but I saw your comment. I was like, hey, ching. You guys on this who have been following me on Smooth Criminal, especially in the last few, and also back mainly calling too. My MO has always been, if we're ever talking about anything to do with crime, and it's very boring for a lot of people because of how. Have you got snow? God, it might as well be snowing here. Apparently, it's summer here. It's not cold though. Thank God. It's just kind of, just neither. It's not woo and it's not yuck. It's sort of just, yeah, it'll do. It'll do. Not complaining about the rain. Oh, Lindy Lou's rolling on in. Good morning to you. 4 a.m. Why are you awake, Lindy Lou? I'm glad you are. Good to have you here, Grover. I'm on my way to work. So I thought we could talk a little bit about how, look, there's so many different angles for talking about the sleuth channels because, those of you who know my channel know that, facts and victims matter here first. And while I am, like anybody else, we can speculate, especially when there are facts if you want to, but always being mindful that we only know like 5 or 10% of the facts that the cops know. So there's also that, how much energy do you want to put in speculating when you know that the bulk of information they've got they haven't made public. But, people can do that. And it's also fine for people to sit around a dining room table and theorise on who they think did it and so on. But I've got to be honest, my hinky meter hasn't really gone off much at all with this case. Usually it does. And it's probably because we don't have a lot of information, facts. The sleuths that are hoping to crack this case on the information we've got, it's going to take some kind of forensic genius for that to happen. But the point of this live was to talk about, it's dawning on me that I think the majority of people that are following these speculation channels and sensationalist channels actually think true crime is a TV show. I'm disgusted too, Emily. God, isn't it reassuring how many channels are now calling it out, speaking up about it, and doing it so channel certainly not calm, but there's a building community. I mean, the fact that I'm in Tasmania, Australia, and I care about this, it's important to me. And there's people all over the world in the same position. Got a press release about the sleuth. A lot of these subscribers of channels that are just so thirsty to solve this case, they continually think it's a TV show because their expectations are so unrealistic. And it's like, you're not related to any of the victims. You're not friends of the victims. You're members of the public who think you're true crime fans, but you're actually sleuth fans, or you're true sleuthers. You're not owed anything. But also, this is real life and interesting perspective. But oh, no, the theories, they're ridiculous, aren't they? But we just have to keep putting just being active and saying, if you want to come and chat on a channel, like if there's other people that are sick of the conspiracy theories, ultimately they're going to find channels like mine, much bigger channels that are calling this stuff out as well. We're providing a platform for people who care about facts and victims to come and hang out, and that's the whole point of it. It's not about stopping the other people. I have no desire to do that. I'm not into cancel culture at all. But recruiting like-minded people, bring it on. Or recruiting sounds like a cult. Attracting. But, I mean, don't get me wrong too, guys. It's not just the subscribers that are in this weird delusional, this is a TV show world. There's also creators, and then you've got extreme creators like Joseph Morris, who has absolutely no regard for the truth or for victims at all. So then he's presenting his channel for however long it remains as a type of TV show as well for all the TV show loving sleuths to find. Like it's sort of dawned on me this morning that this is the problem. Because you think about obviously while I'm driving I can't read chat. My phone is a long way from my face if you want to rock and roll. And when I'm crawling I'll be able to, absolutely they know more blissful. They know way more. So we'll be able to chat and read chat when I'm not moving, and it is morning traffic, so there will be moments. And also, we usually have a bit of a debrief in the car park before I go to work. And I apologise if the audio is a bit average. I thought I'd checked everything, and now I'm like, I think the one thing I meant to turn on, I haven't. But anyway, hopefully it's not too unbearable. I didn't know he existed either, Emily. Well, I kind of did. I remember remember seeing thumbnails during the Gary Petito, and they never hooked me in because it just looked like bullshit. And to be honest, I spoke to Mel on Saturday and I said, I wish I had time. I really want to go live and do a reaction to this Joseph Morris guy, because he had a thumbnail that said blood-curdling scream, and it was the same live where he played the scream and showed the article. I hadn't even started to think about the, the option of sleuthing that, researching where that all came from. But just that thumbnail in itself, I was like, yeah, right. Like, you think so? You think 4 weeks later someone's come forward with audio? So anyway, I put him on while I was doing housework, and I was heckling the crap out of him. I'm like, that isn't verified, that's bullshit. And he was presenting everything as facts. And I couldn't stop listening to him, and I really wanted to do a reaction on Saturday, but I had a very busy day and I wasn't able to. But obviously woke up yesterday morning and Ickard Mel and his team had found the source of that article and everything else, which was brilliant. But I had so much to say about that twat muffin before the outing of the video stuff, because I was just like, wow, this guy's got 250,000 subscribers and he is 100% bullshitting them. And he even had people in his chat who were calling it out. Like, his chat was actually 50-50. Some were into it and others were like, come on, mate, that's crap, which was really reassuring. But as soon as I saw that headline, I'm like, that has to be bullshit. Like, there's no way. And also, if it's real, if it was actually real, there's no way that would be released to the public. No way at all. But also, real or not, how the hell do you think the friends and family of the victims would feel if they heard that, if some arsehole felt entitled to send it to them? And this is where this thing about it's not a TV show, like, I'm watching people in chats and I'm trying to sort of chat with people and provide alternative ways to look at things, and they're not liking it. They're not liking, someone just being reasonable. Oh, someone's saying, have you been seeing me popping into chats and heckling? And I'm not an asshole about it, but I'm playing devil's avocado with them. Well, I'm actually presenting the verified facts in response. But, yeah, there's been quite a few chats that I've gone into, and oh, my God, they're so defensive. They're so rude. They're not open to thinking about something like, both sides of the story, God forbid. Yet they all think they're sleuths. And it's like, well, if you're a sleuth, you've got to think of both sides. You can't just have one. You can't just have one opinion about it or think that's factual when it's not and not budge from it. That's what investigating is. Investigating is having some information, seeing if it can be verified. Then if it is able to be verified, then focusing in on it and deciding whether or not it's relevant or whether there might be an alibi or what, logically it might also mean. That's what investigating is. It's not hearing some shit on YouTube, deciding for some reason it's a fact without doing any individual research to see if it is verified or not, and sticking to it even when people present alternative views. That ain't sleuthing. It's tunnel vision. I'm watching a TV show. And the show, the murder starts with, the start of the show, and an hour later it's solved. And that's how they're looking at this stuff. But this is real life. There's real life victims It's a real life crime. It's not going to get solved in one episode of CSI. I mean, the number of people, the number of channels, news channels, creators that are having experts on, and they're being asked questions about, is this investigation taking too long? And they're like, no. And they explain why. And then the reporter, Ashley Banfield, did this. She's got this guy on who was really interesting and who's an expert, like former cop, I think. I want to react to that too at some point, because I also want to talk about how bad the media reporting is. This is on this as well. It's feeding the sleuths, especially Ashley Banfield. So that she asked this guy if it's, are you concerned how long this is taking? And he's like, absolutely not, and gave this incredibly thorough response with many reasons why it's not concerning that it hasn't been solved in 4 weeks. And her response to that was, well, I don't care. It's clearly going cold. I love the cause. Oh, Emily, I love the causeways too. She's like, it's going cold. And so everyone that's watching Ashley's like, oh, my God, it's going cold. And now you've got shitloads of people in shitloads of chats. The case is going cold. I mean, it didn't help that one of the victims' dads also said that, or mums. It's not even remotely, close to going cold. Cases go cold when absolutely every lead and tip has led to no results. We're talking over a year, sometimes even longer. It's been 4 weeks. 4 murders. Gazillions of tips coming in, especially from idiots on YouTube who think that the creators they're listening to, who are not relying on the facts, are telling them something important, and they feel that they need to call the tip line. And the amount of weight they're putting on information without really, like I said, verifying the source. This is a good chance for questions or comments if you have anything to say. It might stop my rant. How quickly they latch onto something and decide that it's A, unbelievably important, and B, proving that LE don't know what they're doing. Here's a classic example. Yeah, some of the media reporting, Emily, is scary. Even when the cops put out that press release talking about people speculating online, that doesn't exclude media. But let's think of the most recent example, all right, or examples. I'm going to use 2 examples side by side to make a point. LE officially put out a press release regarding the Hyundai Elantra. They have put that information out there, and they're wanting members of the public to call in if they know anything about it. That's clearly something that they're investigating. It's something important. It could be crucial. Plenty of cases have been solved because of cars spotted in locations where crimes have been committed. A crime in Australia, the murder of Jill Marr, the fact that they were able to, follow her phone, which was in the boot with her dead body, and the murderer driving out of Melbourne to bury it, and he was picked up on numerous mobile towers and also had to pay a toll to go through a toll gate, and that was all captured on CCTV. Very crucial information leading to his arrest and conviction. It's not unusual for cops to put out information about cars that were spotted at crime scenes. So they've put out this official release. So that's something important, and it's something factual. So the channels that are talking about the car are talking about something factual. I do too. I think it's going to take lawsuits. I really do, for this to stop. Or and I think this is the less likely option, they're going to have to just put less information out about crimes. But I think with, the way the US is set up and so on, that would be incredibly problematic. So the only option really is to start hitting up some people with lawsuits and criminal charges. But at the same time, all right, as the Elantra, around the same time, another thing came out that the sleuths, for some reason, have latched onto and think that it's unbelievably important. And that is the witness who said that the door was open. And when the chief was asked if he knew about it, and he said no, guess what happened? All the sleuths were like, oh my God, these police are so inept. Like, an open door is pretty important stuff. And how are those girls sleeping with the door wide open? They would have been freezing cold. And this is definitely showing something sus about the girls downstairs. And all of this stuff starts cranking, right? But here's the thing. Who the fuck is that witness who saw the door open? It's not a verified fact in any information that's come out from the police department. This open door has suddenly been mentioned again 4 weeks later. But who is it? And how did that information come out? Like, did some local have a chat to who was floating around and mention it to them, and that's why they've asked a question in this press conference? There's a million reasons why that chief doesn't know about it. A, that witness could be an absolute known bullshitter who isn't credible at all. And again, why is this information coming out so much later? Now, apparently this person said, I spoke to the police about it. Well, do you know who else is speaking to the police about stuff? Hundreds and hundreds of YouTube subscribers that are ringing in tips because they found some thing online that they reckon is going to crack the case, and they're sifting their way through it. And the people that are sifting their way through it, including the FBI, as each tip comes in, they're either debunking it or they're putting it on the board as a possible thing until it's verified. Do you think that the chief is told about every single tip that comes in, especially ones that aren't considered that major when there's something more important like the car, for example, going on? Like, there's a team of people working on this case, and the information that the chief is getting and the stuff that he's doing, like putting out the press releases, that's the information we need to be looking into if we want to sleuth this thing. Go for the car stuff. Like, at the moment, it's just some person told some media person that the door was open when they went for a walk, and that's it. The fact that the chief didn't know about it shows that it's probably not taken that seriously for whatever reason. Like I said, it could be a known, pest who calls in all the time with stuff and who changes her stories 1,000 times over his stories. But there's so many alternatives and so many options. But the problem is that they've all gone, the door was open, the girls downstairs did it, and the cops are inept because they didn't know about it. There you go, I've solved it. What the fuck, people? I love my office on a cozy day. But my God, my day today, I already knew, like Friday, my day today was already fully booked, and tomorrow as well. The Christmas crazy. Thank goodness I've only got 2 more weeks of work, and then I get a really nice break, like nearly a month off. Yeah, people definitely forget. The number of cases now and the actions of people completely ignoring the fact that these are real lives and the victims are real people and this is serious stuff. It's not entertainment. Like, it's fascinating, for sure. And at times you might have a little moment of entertainment, but for the most part, it's serious shit. I mean, you can certainly laugh at the idiots on YouTube that are just idiots. And that's, why I keep saying the true crime genre. These people are not true crimers at all. Because the very thing that true crime hinges on is facts. Whether you're reading about a case that's been solved, or a missing person case, or a cold case, or even a case that's currently going on. I mean, the original true crime websites and forums, long before YouTube, like web sleuths, you had to stick to the facts. There was no problem speculating or theorising as long as you stuck to the facts. And there were intelligent conversations. But if you started putting stuff in the chats, in the forum, that had nothing to do with any of the established facts, you'd either be told to delete your comment or they'd delete it for you. Some people would eventually be kicked out because they just couldn't stick to the facts. But it was really good, conversation, and you'd get your glass of wine and sit there and have really good conversations with verified attorneys and verified former police officers and detectives and FBI agents and forensic special experts, and it was so interesting. And the thirst for facts and more discussion about facts was huge. But this new generation who call themselves true crimers, there's no thirst. I mean, I've got thirst for facts. I definitely want more facts to come out. My hinky meter will kick in at some point, but on this one it hasn't. And it's partly because any rational thought process I have is being drowned out by all of the bullshit online. At the moment, without more facts, I'm like, fine. Now's the time to be one of many channels. It's just being reasonable about this. There's a lot of kisses going on in the chat. Love hearts and stuff. I feel like I don't want it to ever sound like a broken record. I'll keep trying to come up with slightly different angles. But when we get to the car park, I will be asking you guys, do you think this is part of the problem, is that people are treating this like a TV show when it's actually real life? And as far as life goes, this is the really bad part of life. You can't really get much worse than having your child murdered. And not one family, but 4. That's the real life part of this that is always forefront in my mind, and anything that comes out of my mouth is with those 4 kids in mind. Yeah, it's just been getting worse and worse, hasn't it, Emily? I mean, that's one thing I love about our community is a lot of us met 4 years ago. A lot of us were brought together because of Chris Watts, and we're all witnessing this together. I think it'd be very hard if you were entering the true crime arena now as a genuine true crime person with a channel to process what all these other channels are doing, but also not knowing the history of how quickly, because, 4 years, yeah, in one respect it's a long amount of time, but in another respect it's a blink of an eye. But we've just seen this spiralling out of control, and it's truly getting to a point that I never imagined it would. I'm amazed at how something happens and you're like, wow, that's the lowest thing I've seen on YouTube. Nothing will ever surpass that. And then bang, something happens and you're like, holy shit, this is even worse. I was saying that on my live yesterday. If we all had sat around my dining room table when we first met and had a chat about where true crime would be on YouTube in 4 years' time, none of us would have predicted what Joseph Morris did. Not one of us. No way. I reckon someone would have said there's going to be a lot of fundraising fraud going on. I reckon that would have been a likely prediction. But none of us would have said, oh, this YouTuber is going to manipulate the audio from another channel and put it out there as the screams of a murder victim and doctor a media article and add a paragraph essentially confirming what he's playing and showing everyone is a fact, a verified fact. And 250,000 people are going to be subscribed to this channel, even though he's already been caught out bullshitting on other cases and faking evidence. They are cement shoes, and that was, and good to see you, mate. That was my point at the start of this live, is it's taking so long, the police are inept, it's going to go cold. No, it's not. It's hard enough to work out who killed one person, but 4? Exactly, Cement, and that's the whole point of our chat. And I know you guys are already, I know we're preaching to the converted, but sometimes I feel like just going live and chatting about it together, you're not processing it in your mind on your own. It's good to have a little chat about it. Plus, we're all out and about on YouTube and see different things. It's always good to hear if there are other channels that are also just being reasonable and sticking to the facts and keeping the victims forefront in their mind in everything they do and say. I'm all for building a library of really good channels. If people ever ask in chat about, is there another channel that talks about this angle, to be able to go, yep, this is where you need to go. I'm all for that. This isn't a solo adventure for me. I'm part of a community. We do get it off our chests, and it means, like, today with my clients, and my goodness, have I got some clients, like, oh, I'm going to be absolutely knackered when I get to go home. Same tomorrow. The Christmas frenzy. Kind of be interesting to know what the Christmas frenzy is like in the States. And I'm not just talking about the flapping around and buying food and presents part of it. Because in Australia, because it's summer here, we have our school year is like our calendar year, which is January to December. Well, I mean, it's February till November or whatever, but the school year. But and then we have our big summer break that you guys get in the middle of the year. But in Australia, every year, no matter what industry you work in, leading up to Christmas is just batshit friggin' crazy. There's people everywhere and shops packed and people running around and getting all the food and looking stressed, and everything's got to be sorted out before Christmas in the business world. And it doesn't matter what job I've worked in. The 2 weeks in particular, I mean, it starts building up in November, but the 2 weeks before Christmas at work are just insane. And then, you've got all the prep happening for Christmas, and then you have Christmas Day and you eat a heap of food, and hopefully you have some really tasty wine, and then you wake up on Boxing Day and you're like, well, holy shit, it's done. What was all that stress and anxiety about? Basically, I cooked a lunch, we ate it and fell asleep. Go us. It's like everything has to be sorted out, finalised, finished, done and dusted before Christmas. And then, yeah, there is a bit of a little break between Christmas Eve and the 2nd of January. There's a lot of public holidays and most businesses don't start opening again till January. But we're talking like, a week or two, not 3 months. Oh, the same for you. Yeah, from what was it you say? Halloween to Valentine's Day. Yeah, I know you guys have got so many. Because things like Halloween, I mean, it's starting to take off here a bit, unfortunately. Don't get me wrong, I loved Halloween when I was in the States because to me, Halloween and the way you guys celebrate it was a very American thing. But it's creeping into Australian culture now. Like, a lot of people are into it, but same with the houses being lit up. Like, you guys, holy shit. I remember I was just gobsmacked going around the neighbourhood and looking at all the lights on the houses. People do that here, but again, it's a minority. It's not like every street is lit up like a friggin' Christmas tree. Like, you guys seriously know how to do every holiday, and especially being at an American high school too. Like, every holiday was incredibly well celebrated at school too. Like, Valentine's Day, that was when we all got to leave someone we had a crush on, a Valentine, and there were love hearts all over the school, and everyone wore red and pink, and yeah, you guys are just hardcore. Um, we're very, even though it's summer when we have Christmas, I grew up with grandparents and parents who did a very traditional English sort of Christmas with the turkey and the ham and all the trimmings, even though it might be 40 degrees Celsius. Although a lot of Aussies do a seafood barbecue on Christmas Day too, which is always fantastic. We've got a huge storm heading towards you, Samantha. Batten down the hatches. Stay safe, mate. I mean, it's going to be 19 Celsius here today, which isn't cold. Like, it's comfortable. And look, I'm not complaining about the rain we're getting because this place is not usually, like Hobart used to be, I don't know if it is anymore, but it used to be the second driest capital city in Australia. Like, we're not known for rain like Melbourne is. But my tank is plump and full of beautiful rainwater. And I've got green grass, whereas at this time of year, Australia goes this golden yellow colour. So, yeah, it's not like super cold, 19, but it's also not summery. You did the conversion, 66. I mean, all I know and remember is that 32 Fahrenheit is 0 Celsius. Hang in there, cement shoes. You guys have some pretty crazy storms. Although I read an article yesterday that was saying, and I've been talking about this with friends for the last few years, whenever we stumble across climate change deniers, just the gravity of natural disasters in Australia now too, compared to 10 years ago. Like, the bushfires that went through primarily New South Wales. We've had massive firestorms in Victoria and Tassie as well, and then all the flooding. And then you look at, fires that you guys have had, and then you look at the fires that Greece had, and there's constantly earthquakes happening, killing hundreds of people, and especially like on the like in Asian countries, that belt is very prone to horrible earthquakes. Bigger sort of tsunami warnings, more frequent, and it's crazy. by high school in Kansas City, Missouri, the tornado warnings. I used to get so excited about stuff like that. Not that there was going to be a tornado, but just the fact that I lived in a place that had them, because we don't. And they're saying, like, what you guys call hurricanes, we call cyclones. And there's the article that I was reading was saying that the cyclones that we are prone to getting are going to be way worse than what we've experienced before. And that's pretty scary, because if you look at Australian history, there was a Cyclone Tracy, in the 70s that literally eradicated Darwin, a city in the Northern Territory. It just wiped it out. Oh, looks like we're going to my tag spot. Bit of tuba action. My tag, guys. Tuba. We're very hospitable Aussies. So Americans, though. Like, honestly, Americans in America, the tourists give you guys such a bad name. I was constantly overwhelmed by the generosity of Americans. Like, I slept in so many amazingly comfortable beds and spare rooms in houses with people I'd literally met 2 hours ago that were like, you can come and stay with us for a couple of nights. When I was traveling around the States, I mean, I was a fairly non-threatening 17-year-old Australian, but, you know, and they'd put on a special dinner for this random Aussie they'd met and drive me to the train station or the airports. Incredibly hospitable, generous people. The ugly American. Yeah, I know some of your tourists do not give your country a good name. In fact, there's probably, I mean, don't get me wrong, Australians are absolute bogans in certain parts of the world. Like when I was in the UK, I went out of my way to act like I wasn't from Australia, because Australians are shocking. In London, there are pubs that you won't find an English person in because it's full of drunk Aussies. Oh, I'm sorry to read that, Blissful with Texas. It's very expensive for people to fly here, yes. Very. I mean, my best friend who lives in San Diego, she's coming home at Christmas time, and what she will pay to come home from the States compared to what I paid to get to Hawaii. Although these days flights aren't that cheap anywhere. I mean, the flights that what we paid to get to Singapore and back has almost doubled since we booked the flights. So it's like $4,000 now. It's crazy. Mind you, Lindy Lou, you could probably fly to Singapore for $500. But yeah, so this TV show, and I know you guys are all on the same page. Hello, lovely Ruth. I think that's the problem, is this lack of any sort of empathy and humanity with this new genre that I refuse to call true crime, or I'll stop calling myself true crime and just call myself crime. Call myself a crime channel. It's so obviously about clicks and views, but the number of people buying into it. Oh, a £10 flight to Dublin. Dublin, nice. Love Dublin. Both sides of my family came out to Australia on the first fleet as convicts, but my mum's side of the family were from Scotland and my dad's side were Irish. That's why I've got the dark hair, blue eye thing going on. That's a very Irish thing. Let me chuck on some makeup. I'm keen to see what you guys think about the TV show. Because it's bloody obvious that's how they're looking at it. I mean, it's going cold. As soon as you see someone saying it's going cold, there's no, well, I will keep calling stuff out, but, I'm choosing my battles too. And you'll find if you do sort of say, the police are not inept. It's just that the open door doesn't have the same amount of importance or priority clearly to them. It's not that they're not aware of it. It's just that he maybe hasn't been given that bit of information. You think about how much stuff they're processing that's coming through from all these tips, from all these wanky YouTube sleuths. Like, they're relying on the public to help, and you've got all these do-gooder internet sleuths who think they've cracked the case, like clogging up the tip line, and they've got to follow up every tip. Do you think every single tip, especially ones that can be easily debunked by the police force, is going to be passed on to the chief? You reckon he's got the time for that? Like, do our bosses know every single email we send? Do we have to tell our boss absolutely everything we do? Like, if you're employed by someone to do a job and you're doing it competently, your boss doesn't necessarily know absolutely everything you do each day. Your boss knows the important stuff, and they're monitoring the important stuff. They've got a team of people going through all of the tips, and if there are tips that are important, sure, the chief's going to know about it. But the chief saying he doesn't know about something that some random neighbour maybe told a media person who brought it up in a press release or a press conference that still hasn't even been verified as a fact or acknowledged by the cops at the moment as being important. That sort of stuff's not going to be passed up to that guy. That guy has got so much on his plate. I really feel for him. And it's so unnecessary for these bloody online sleuths to be slagging them off and saying they're not doing a good job. We only know a tiny amount of information that they know. They know so much more than we do. It's quite possible they already do have a suspect just because they haven't told the public that. They've got to be very strategic in how they put information out too. Sometimes it's really good to put extra information out because they do need the public's help, like with the Elantra. It could be a critical bit of evidence. And there's eyes on the ground. Of course, get the public to look out for it. But they're not going to put a press release out about the open door because at the moment, as far as we know, only one person's mentioned it and it hasn't been verified by them as being a relevant fact. So the fact that the chief was honest and went, yeah, I don't know about that, it doesn't mean he's inept, and it doesn't warrant 38 lives a minute saying that the cops are inept because he didn't know about this unverified comment from a neighbour. And the other thing is, with tips, they're not going to call every single person back who's called up with a tip. Like if someone rings in with a tip and they look into it and it's a dead end tip, well, that just gets put in the bin. Or if it's got some merit and it needs to be investigated, then it's up on the board and they're looking into that until they can either verify it and consider it important to the case or go down a dead end with it and realise it needs to be shelved along with all the other stupid tips they've been getting. You know what I mean? Like, the chief not knowing that, and good on him for being so honest. I think he's a really likeable guy. Imagine the pressure that he's on. Imagine all the shit that he's probably copying from people. If there are people on YouTube complaining about how inept the cops are, you can bet your bottom dollar that there are people from YouTube calling the police department to comment on how inept they think they are. You can bet it. You know it. Just put on my powder. And even their ability to put themselves in their shoes, the investigators' shoes, and just contemplate the magnitude of this case. And not just this case, but so many others. And then, I mean, in the middle of all of this, we had the terrible, horrible murder of Athena Strand that was essentially solved super quickly, but they had like digital records. It was very easy to catch this guy, and then he confessed. But when that happens, they're like, well, look at what happened with Athena Strand. It was, 48 hours and the whole thing's solved. But they're not factoring why.
or how, but not, I mean, just, it's mind-boggling. Every case is different. And 4 murders in a town of college students where there's so many potential suspects. It's going to take a long time. 4 weeks is nothing. Especially when they're pouring through hundreds and hundreds of pointless tips that these internet sleuths think they've cracked the case. So they've got to call the cops, even though 50 other people have already done it. They don't realise they're actually slowing things down. If they want quick results, they need to just shut up and let the cops do their jobs. If they want a speedy result, they need to stop clogging the tip line with bullshit. The very thing they're complaining about, they're contributing to. But it still isn't long either. They do keep close. I like that. The defence would have. And that's why they're so careful with what they put out, because you get those Bullhorn Betty JLR types going down to towns and speaking to possible witnesses. And as a former defence lawyer, I would have pounced on that. It would have been very easy to get a lot of those witnesses struck. And if it was a key witness for the prosecution, you'd be doing a little happy dance for sure. Oh, really? Creators getting butthurt, agencies don't call them back. I know, this entitlement is insane. It's over the top. I mentioned that her father and stepmother were all but tarred and feathered over her disappearance. Oh, yeah. And all those creators that blamed the stepmother with Athena Strand, and then the guy confessed, and they're like, oh, my bad, I got it wrong. But I'm not going to apologise to her because everybody thought she was guilty. No, everybody didn't. I didn't. And I know shitloads of other people. Don't put us all in the same thing. No. That's the other thing, the creators that go, nobody else came up with this theory. I said this first. Everybody thought this. I heard a creator yesterday saying that. Nobody else was saying this. And it's like, shitloads of other people were saying that. You weren't the only one. I don't have time to watch every single thing that goes on YouTube to know exactly how many people are saying something or aren't saying something. But don't put us all in the same basket and say we're all saying it, or you're the only one saying it, like you cracked something that nobody else had been discussing. The ego of some of these people, my God. And that's why a lot of them are irresponsible and don't stick to the facts, because if for whatever little fluky reason they happen to stumble across something and say it, and then it does prove out to be critical, well, they're going to go to town for the rest of the time they're on YouTube about how they came up with that thing. A bit like Jays for Justice when, they were watching stuff live with, now I've forgotten her name. Oh, that horrible case. The girl who murdered her friend to get the baby. I've gone completely blank. But because, she had someone up on her panel at the time who knew people involved, and they're watching the live broadcast, and the cops have all rocked up to this friend's house, and this girl was able to say, oh, that's actually her friend's house. Well, then Jay claimed that she solved the case, which wasn't the case at all. She was live and had a really relevant person on her panel while they were watching it. And that in itself was cool, but you don't need to then be like, we cracked the case. The cops were already at the house. They'd cracked it. You were watching them going to the house that they'd cracked the case and they knew who'd done it. What was that case name? Critical thinking, it does. Hey, Miss K, doesn't need to be taught in schools. Heidi Broussard, thank you. I mean, the fact that she had this girl who knew them on her panel at the time while they were watching it, that in itself was, I mean, go to town on that. But don't put stuff out there saying you cracked the case when you were literally watching the cops pull up at the house. They'd cracked it themselves. Thank you very much. And then by claiming that you cracked it, that's why all these sleuths now are like, oh, I'm going to crack something. I got slammed in Mr. Hughes for saying it was a friend or someone she knew stole the baby. It does happen a lot. Was there one recently in Australia or the US? There was one really recently, a girl who murdered the pregnant mum, and they both died, the mum and the baby. Like really recently, and I can't remember if it was here or the US. And those sorts of murders are just, that's a whole mental health genre of crime in its own right. That sort of, it's such I'd never cover those because there's so much psychology involved in that stuff, like the pressures on society to have kids, and then if you can't have them, or you've tried and you keep losing babies, and like it's just there's so much psychology in that sort of crime. I mean, there's psychology in every crime, but that one, you can't be black and white with that one because there's so many other factors at play. But yeah, if you Google that type of crime, there's so many examples of it. Like it's horrific, absolutely horrific. Oh no, well he was crucified, and again, like my hinky meter didn't go off with him. My hinky meter was spinning like a demon with Chris Watts, though. But that pounce on the first person and have them hung, drawn, and quartered and convicted before they've even solved the case is so irresponsible. And the horrible thing is, like with Athena Strand, the channels that went down the stepmother did it road, even though they were like, okay, I got it wrong, they still didn't offer any sort of apology. The YouTubers who unmuted their mics in court didn't offer an apology. They just blamed everybody else. And then the next day acted like nothing had ever happened. How sexy is humility? Or is it just me? I love me some humility. Some of these people need to just crack eggs. Yeah, I love that. Stop trying to crack the case. Go crack an egg. We need to get some T-shirts. Don't be cracking no case. Crack an egg. You guys are chatty. Yeah, with Watts. And there's an Australian case that I talk about a lot, the murder of Alison Baden Clay by her husband. And if you look at his interview on his, well, not porch, but out the front of his parents' house, and it happened before Chris Watts, you'll know why Australians hinky meters on the Watts case, where we're all like, that guy did it. Then he pleaded guilty and we're like, awesome, done, move on. But nay, I still see notifications in my list, not channels I'm even subscribed to, but because I was at one point interested in that case, I still see channels talking about that. Bye, Lindy Lou. T-shirts for Tori. Well, look, Gray can be a fuckwit too. Come on. I mean, he's not perfect. And I did listen to a bit of him yesterday after I did my live, and I mean, he and I think exactly the same about a lot of stuff. But nobody on YouTube's perfect. I mean, we don't expect people in our real lives to be perfect. And he plays on the fact that he can be a bit of a knob, you know, and it's almost become his sort of tag is to be mean, you know, that's sort of become his thing. And he's got a good sense of humour about it. I'm not bagging the guy, but, you know, he pretty much, even like when I did the live or that little video about James Leonard, that, you know, 5.6 thousand views or something. Doesn't translate to new subscribers, though. YouTube's so weird, because I think I was one of the first people to cover the James Leonard thing, and everyone was talking about it. This is the guy that got arrested in Moscow. But Gray and I, obviously, we're both into facts. And so anyone who is into facts, you're going to start saying the same sort of stuff. But yeah, I was listening to him and I was like, that's what I was saying about Joseph Morris in my life earlier. But it just boils down to people that genuinely are into crime and know that facts matter and victims matter, and everything else falls into place. As snippets come out, let's talk about it. But until then, all these theories. I mean, God, he had some doozy caller who went down a massive theory road, and I couldn't believe he didn't cut him off, because I was like, God, you're giving this dude a lot of airtime. But then right at the very end, he just said in one sentence, he went, and your entire theory is based, your theory is based on a heap of information, none of which is verified, not one thing. And I'm like, yep, that's pretty much how I'd be responding. So he was decent enough to give this person the time of day. And then in one tidy little sentence just went, and nothing is verified in your theory. Not one thing. Thank you for calling. I sometimes contemplate whether I can set things up and do callers, and then it reminds me of my breakfast radio days, and I don't know if I want to go down that road again or not, because I don't know if I could be as mild-mannered with some of them, because I've got a fire in my belly about these idiots now. Very close to 100,000. I do love it, Emily. Sometimes I'm listening to him when I'm gardening and stuff, and he'll be like, Emily Flotilla. I'm like, hey, Emily. Because I have a Bluetooth speaker that I take down into my garden with me, but I don't have like my phone or keyboard, obviously, because I'm in the garden. But yeah, he's like, Emily Flotilla, thank you very much for your $5. And I'm like, I know her. You're very different politically. Oh, look, I think we're all... We all know that politics is a no-go zone unless you live in a political family like me, and then we talk about it all the time. But yeah, 100,000, that's awesome. But yeah, just to give you guys some perspective, I mean, my little video on James Leonard, 5,500 views, but that doesn't translate to suddenly you've got 5,000 new subs. That's how hard you have to work on YouTube. I mean, don't get me wrong, since I've been dedicating all my crime stuff back over on this channel, I think I've gained about 125 new subscribers, which is really exciting. But when you have a video that can go viral, like if you look at my other videos that are all around the 100, 150, 170 views, and then that really rough little video I did on James Leonard took off. But I think I was the first person, or one of the first, to put information out there, and people were looking for info, and I kept popping up in their searches. Plus, it was only like a little on Smooth Criminal, Emily. It's called Who is James Leonard, or James Curtis Leonard. And I very clearly say in the video that I've actually been contacted by somebody who knows him, who was incredibly polite and lovely. And that was a bit sort of exciting. Like, not that I'd ever put this guy on my channel or anything like that, but that's when you feel like you're doing something worthwhile, when you actually have connections. Yeah, it's only like a little 7-minute video. But yeah, connections with real people that are actually connected to the case. And that case is a really sad one as well. And just seeing how you're dealing with a human being who's just having a conversation with you, who's really polite, reasonable, delightful, grateful, and they're connected, directly connected to a perpetrator and victims, and they're so delightful. And then you've got these sleuths online that you say something that, you know, let's just stick to the facts, and they're so abusive. Some of the comments that people put under my videos and stuff like that, like I'd take them so much more seriously if they could just be reasonable and polite in the way they ask me a question, but they're just so instantly angry and unpleasant that, I mean, I do acknowledge every comment, but some of them I just think you would go a lot further in life if you could just be a nice person. Yeah, it's really rough, Emily. I mean, I just happened to one of the things I do when I'm following a case is I check the arrests in a town where the crime occurred frequently, because not all the time, but sometimes they can be connected. And also it's just a point of interest as well, I guess. And I hadn't even had an opportunity to expand and crop screenshots and stuff like that. So it's very rough. But it was also, I thought, very interesting. It was another thing that had happened in Moscow. I was like, wow, don't get me wrong, other people have been ticketed for drinking underage and all sorts of stuff, but I'm not going to go live about every single one. But that one just stood out as okay, this is pretty interesting. So yeah, it's rough. But I think people were Googling his name, or, putting his name in the search bar on YouTube. And for a while, it's a guy that got arrested in Moscow last week. And charged with 4 counts relating to domestic violence, including his child. But in his mugshot, he had a bandaged arm. And I was like, well, everyone's been talking about how you get cut when you're stabbing people and so on. I can see this guy is going to be put out there as a possible suspect for the Idaho 4 murders. So let's have a look at it. So I put it up there and, didn't say it was him. But there's also people putting comments under that saying he's also a peeping Tom. And look, there certainly was information after I started diving into him about him being caught doing that in the past, but there's no charge on that, on his most recent arrest, to do with peeping Toms, being a peeping Tom. So I wasn't going to go down that road because, again, there's no facts connected to it. Oh, look at you doing all the links. I've really got to do some more cooking, but it's my life is so busy at the moment. It takes forever to pull apart my camera and everything from my dining room table and set it up in the kitchen and get the right angle. And it's a lot of work to cook. I love doing it, but I think that's going to be more videos than lives, because it's very easy for me to make a little video and edit it and upload it than it is to reset the whole kitchen. And and some things I make, I need to use the bench near the stovetop. Other ones I need to use the other bench. It's just, it's a lot of setting up to cook dinner, basically. So yeah, I've got to work out the best approach. But I think just filming it on my phone and then making little edited videos might be the way to go with that channel. But again, then I've got to have the time to do the editing. There's just too many things I want to do and not enough time. And because I refuse to do what other YouTubers do, which essentially gives them an income so they don't have to work, by being sensationalistic and not caring about facts and victims, that's the only way to really make an income on YouTube, it seems, if you're into this genre. And I'm not prepared to do that because my morals wouldn't allow me to. But really, I need to have like 4 days a week to do really good YouTube content for all my little channels. And I just don't have that time. Yeah, some videos. I think so too, Emily. Especially because sometimes you cook something and it needs to cook for 40 minutes or whatever. Like it's, you know, much easier to film the making it part and then while the little bugger's cooking, get on with editing the making it part and then do another little video of it coming out of the oven and a taste test and then just cropping the two together. And away we go. But then there's a lot to be said too for pouring a glass of wine and hanging out in the kitchen together and chatting while we cook, you know? So, I mean, it's tricky. But I'm really enjoying doing stuff, more focused crime stuff on this channel for sure, including scambaiting. You know, like this channel's giving me a lot of fulfillment and it's growing, whereas my other little channel, the Tasmania calling one, is stuck in a cul-de-sac that I can't get out of. But there's just no growth happening there at all. Whereas this one, at least, there's a little bit of growth. There's some new people rocking up. I hope some of them start joining in chats and things because I think there's some really lovely people that I've been engaging with in the comments that you guys are going to all get on with so well. And I'm really excited about that we've got some like-minded people tuning in. I hope that they all start to join in on some of the lives that we do and you guys get to know them because, you know, we want to hang out with other people who care about facts and victims and they're starting to find this channel. So it's really exciting. Like I'm very energized about Smooth Criminal. And I think originally I was saying I'm not going to monetize because you get so much criticism from people. Well, you're making money off dead people too. But then part of me is also like, because my other channel's not moving at all, down the track, end the memberships over there and maybe put memberships over here so we can keep sponsoring little animals and stuff. And that's what we use the channel for. I mean, I don't use AdSense, and that's where a lot of people, I mean, you don't make a lot of money with AdSense either, but that's where a lot of people make their money on YouTube. I will never do that. I'll never turn on AdSense. But that's where I'm sort of thinking down the track, this could end up being the channel where we sponsor the critters. Oh, God, Kay's cooking. Oh, I think you're using the word good very loosely or great. Let's be honest. I actually read something about her, though. I used to promote her a lot. But she and Lee are a bit racist. I've actually seen things that she's written online that I didn't like. I don't like go back to where you came from kind of people, and she and her son are like that. So I'm a bit confused about Kay now. I mean, for entertainment purposes, reviewing her videos and stuff, yeah, sure, it's hilarious. But then do I want to promote a channel that, and this is no issue with you putting the link there either, Scout, but I am a bit conflicted about her. That's why I haven't done any reactions to Kay for a while, because another part of me is like, do I want to be endorsing, I guess, a channel where I've actually seen comments that she and her son have written online that are pretty racist. I don't like that go back to where you came from. The world is ours to live on and explore, and we're all free to move around and so on. Yeah, it's I know, and I've only just discovered that, Scout, and I'm not sure how I feel. How do you guys feel? Have I heard from Frank? Is that a question for me, Lindy Lou? Frank, who? Ruchek? Oh, you didn't have to scale. Like, I don't mind. She's still I think she's still connected to my Shitty Kitty Kitchen channel, as you know, a channel that I'm subscribed to. Oh, the scammer. No. Mind you, I haven't checked Telegram. I don't get notifications on my phone. I need to physically go in there. But the last time I looked, which was a couple of days ago, he hadn't said anything. But the way scammers are, like there was a scammer that messaged me 3 years ago and I messaged him back and away he went. Like they focus their energies on the ones they're likely to get money out of. And at the moment, I'm not at that point with him. So he's probably, focusing on other people that are about to send him money. But I reckon if we went live and said, "G'day, Frank," he'd start chatting straight away. But yes, I don't know about Kay and her son. A bit disappointing. Definitely still, I think, in many respects, worth reacting to just because of the fun that we can have with her. But then I'm like, well, I don't want to drive traffic to the sensationalist channels that I talk about. I know, it's a Frankie 2-timer. He's probably a 20-timer. It is disappointing. And they were verified screenshots. Like, it wasn't a rumour that was floating around on Reddit. I've actually seen their comments in writing, verified from their official social media, and a lot of the comments she's said under comments of her own cooking videos to people. Anyone that comments that has a name that isn't typical Anglo-Saxon name is likely to get, "If you don't like my cooking, go back to where you came from" response. Not sure how I feel. Well, I know how I feel about it. It's fucked. I don't like that point of view. And that's what I can't stand. There's everyone that has these sort of defeatist responses when they're discussing things with people. They can't, like the people that say, "Well, you're making money off a dead person too." And it's like, that is the lamest comment. Like, let's discuss why you have an issue with me. With Kylie Rodney, when I was doing that on my other channel, which is monetized, "Well, you're making money off them too." And it's like, well, the money this channel makes goes into sponsoring critters. But I'm also talking about the facts of the case and not buying into the foul play theories. And I'm not making 30 plus grand a month, aka Zavgirl, because I'm going down the foul play road and ignoring the facts. Yes, Francis. Yes, the soft Francis. It is. Penny didn't drop straight away because he hasn't been active. You too, Emily. And I'm doing good things. Thank you. What a lovely thing to say. Speaking of humanity, Freaky Francis, Frank. Speaking of humanity, I better go and look after my clients who are all having a very difficult time. I'm going to continue to, and I know that that's going to make me a channel on YouTube that a lot of people won't be interested in. I know exactly what I'd need to do to get 1,000 subscribers overnight, but I'm not going to do it. And I'm fine with that. It's always going to be quality over quantity with me. I'd rather have reasonable, like-minded individuals, even individuals that have a different opinion but are capable of a rational discussion rather than just, slinging mud back without any sort of response of any substance. I welcome all sorts of opinions here. But even like if I do a live stream, which I really want to do, which is the facts versus rumours, or I don't know what wording I'm going to use yet, well, verified facts versus rumours on the Idaho 4. Like, I want people to put theories and stuff in there so I can say, well, that's actually not a verified fact. So let's shelve that theory for the moment. I love how you give love to Sunny too, who's at home snoring her head off, no doubt, and will not move until I get home, unless she needs to go to the loo. Yep, quality over quantity any day. Because, at the end of the day, I need to like my reflection in the mirror when I'm brushing my teeth. And that's how I'm surprised at these channels that are so quick to go down these foul play theory roads and everything, how they can actually like their reflection. Like, how could Joseph Morris like his reflection after what he did? Falsifying a news article and putting audio out there that was just so disrespectful to the victims. I mean, the mental health of people connected to those victims, if anyone had stumbled across that and thought for a moment that might have been somebody they loved screaming, just horrifying. And yet at the end of the day, that guy, when he got called out about the Gabby Petito stuff, apparently he laughed and he said, I just love messing with people. I mean, it's almost worth covering him. I'd love a psychologist to analyse that guy. Like, he's almost he may be a case. Hey, Shanna, thanks for your message earlier, gorgeous. I didn't have a chance to respond. And I'm about to say bye-bye, everybody, because I got to get to work. But lovely to see you, gorgeous. I'm so glad. Excited. Seeing each other in Gray's chat yesterday briefly was very cool. He took them down, apparently, yeah. But I got to go, Groovers. Take care, everyone. And thanks for hanging out with me. In the meantime, don't get struck by Smooth Criminal. Dun, 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 dun.